And then, if you are going the distribution route online, again, use every opportunity you can to get news releases out, to get newspaper releases about your. If anything happens with your film, if your film reaches 10,000 hits, 1 million hits, whatever number of hits, anything with zeros at the end, that's a nice round figure. Say, send out a press release. If anything that happens, try and get your news releases out. But the reason that's here under the internet part is that if you get a lovely story written about you in the local newspaper, people read it and smile and it's forgotten. But if you get a newspaper story written about you and it's online, then for the rest of the internet's life, that story is online about you. So the more stories you can get online, it means then that when you go to Hollywood and you're meeting people in Hollywood, what happens is this. You go up and you meet this really big person in Hollywood, and you say, I'm Declan Cassidy, I've done this, I've done that, I've done this, and they smile and they agree to arrange to meet you for coffee. At 6 o'clock in the morning they tend to like to meet, some strange hours. But then what they do is they go home and they look you up on the internet. They won't make any commitment or any judgment. They'll go home and they'll do their research on the internet. And if there is stuff on the internet about you, well then when the next time that they meet you, now they're willing to talk, because now you're not just a chancer, because the film industry is full of bullshitters, So whenever you get a press release out on the internet, or whenever you get into a festival, then the database on you on the internet is building, and your credibility is building, and this helps you. Okay. Finally, festivals. Your film has 2 years of life in the festival circuit. So for the first year, you make a festival plan. On the first year, you send it to Cannes Film Festival, Clermont-Ferrand, Tampere, Sundance, Tribeca, all the big film festivals. Your first year, you send it to all of those. Okay? I didn't. I sent my film to Tour de France, which is a nice small festival, and they said, we love your film, we want it. That was great. And then I sent it to Cannes, and then Cannes said, we love your film, we want it. That was better. I was like, oh my god, my film's in Cannes. And then they said, has it shown anywhere in France? And I said, yeah, it's shown in Tour de Cannes. Sorry, we can't have it, it has to be a premiere. Okay? So that's the reason the first year you send it to only the top festivals, because they need a premiere. The second year then, if your film has been successful, the small festivals start asking you for it. If your film hasn't been so successful, you start sending it to the small festivals. Well, you have 2 years. After that, that's when it's time to put it maybe onto the internet, unless it's still selling on television. Because, okay, and then the other thing, travel, again, I keep saying it, but travel to as many festivals as what have you. In America, if your film has been funded by Film Board or something like that, make sure that that's also on your literature for your film, because that makes people in Hollywood take you seriously. If you've been funded by a body like that, it helps. So use anything like that if you can. Use the publicity, okay? And in Hollywood, when you go there, you go into a film festival, and it's like a battle zone, because they all have, no matter how small the film is, they all have massive posters like it's the next big release. They have baseball caps, they have everything with their film on. And you're there and you put your postcards like this, you put your postcards and you walk away, and somebody's pushed your postcards and put their postcards, and it's all fighting, to try and get, because at the film festivals in America, the top people are often there. In the good festivals, they're there looking for you, they're talent hunting, and this could be your career opportunity. So it's pretty important. And when you do have your literature, every time, these are not necessarily winning an award. These things. If your film is selected for a festival, you put official selection. Okay. So you start off with official selection. Hopefully you start winning awards. So then they become, short film winner or feature film winner or whatever else. But they're important because people say, oh well, if somebody gave it an award, it must be good. We'll watch it. And that's the other thing about being at festivals. If you're there, the chances are that you can make friends with people, they'll watch your film, and when they come out, they'll vote. So you can win audience awards just by being popular. Okay? And then the very last thing that I'll leave you with is the biggest lesson that I ever learned in this whole film industry. Okay? I was at Palm Springs Festival, and my film was showing, and everything was great. And this very, very, very top studio guy from Hollywood comes into the room, and all of the American film students go running up trying to give him their card and all that, and he pushes them out of the way and he walks straight over to me, and I'm sitting there thinking, wow, this is cool. And then he goes over and he takes my hand and said, I loved your film, I loved your film. And I'm like, oh, thank you. He didn't, he actually said, I love your film, right? Like, you know, real Hollywood kind of thing, you know. And I'm, oh, thank you. And then he said, sit down, sit down. So I sat down and he goes, what have you got for me? What's your next project? What have you got? And I went, well, nothing at the moment. And just the light went out of his eyes. And he went, well done. And he got up and walked away. And that is the most important thing that you have in your film, is your next project. Okay? Because your film will open doors for you. Your film will open doors for you. But if you don't have any way of walking through that door, you might as well not make the film. Because once you've made your film, it's all about your next film. Okay? So if you take one piece of advice away from this, okay, it's don't make the mistake that I made. Have your next project. And even if that's only an idea, it doesn't have to be a full script. But when the guy says to you, loved your film, what are you working on now? You've got to be able to tell him what you're working on now. Because he might be the guy that says, I love your work so much, I'm going to put 50 million into your film. You know? So you really need to do that. Okay? And then finally, I'll leave this on the screen. That's me, right? So if you want this presentation to help jog your memory about these different things, just email me and I'll email you the presentation. But while that's up on the screen, does anyone have any questions?
Was that the only time you've ever been at a loss for words when the Hollywood guy asked you for
That is the only time. So everybody's clear on everything? No questions?
I'm being hurried, but I really have a question. So basically, those two short films, the budgets were 15 euros and 3,000 euros.
15,000 euros.
15,000 and 3,000. So it wasn't necessarily because the production costs were...
Exactly.
But because this was the money that you received and you had to spend it because it was public money.
That's exactly it. And in fact, we forgot to cover that. Yeah, the scheme you apply for gives you 15,000. So it doesn't matter what your film is, you get 15,000.
Okay.
And you have to submit a budget when you
it's
apply.
Public money, so you have to spend.
You have to spend it. But the problem is that, you know, for example, your movie. If you've got public money to make your movie, the actors are not allowed to work for nothing. Because it's public money, they have to be paid. You have to have insurance. So with the 15,000 comes a list of things that you have to have and people that you have to pay. So now all of a sudden, it costs you 10,000 euro that you wouldn't have had to spend to get your 15,000. So you're only really getting 5,000. So that first film we could have made for 5,000? Yeah. Easily for 5,000. But it cost us 15,000 because that's what they did.
And the film board have an agreement with the film unions that everybody will work for 120 euro a day, which is low for a lot of professions like cameramen or whatever. They want to be paid 600, 800 or sometimes. So that was quite low. I remember it was early on in the career of TimeSnap, and we had a list of the industry people that we have to hire because we have the budget that we copy from the industry and everything has to be. So there was a gaffer, and we weren't quite sure what a gaffer.
Does anyone know what a gaffer does?
Yeah.
But anyway, we came to understand that he's the guy who bosses the electricians around because they're quite hard to deal with. So you need a bossy guy to boss the bolshy guys who are the electricians. So anyway, we had a gaffer, even though we didn't have any electricians. And the night before the shoot, he rang me and he said, look, I can't work for this kind of money. He'd only realised it was 120 quid. You know, I work for 600 quid. So you're going to pay me 600 quid. You know, I'm not going to let down my profession by working for such a pittance. So I said, look, I'm sorry, we can't do that. The budget is already there. We can't agree to that. So I didn't cave in. And the next day there was no gaffer. And I'm going, oh my God, there's no gaffer on our film. What are we going to do? And you know what? I never noticed that there was no gaffer on our film. And ever since then, we have never had a gaffer.
We still have never had any electricians.
No.
There were a couple of other questions.
Yeah, I have one. Do you actually earn money from submitting your film to festivals and winning prizes, or is it more for the connections that bring your work afterwards?
It's both. I think whatever turns you on costs 15,000 of government money, so we didn't have to pay, and it won. I think maybe 7,000 or 8,000 in prizes, and then it got maybe the same. It probably made 15 or 20,000 between selling to television stations and cinema, and so for that 4-minute film probably made about €20,000, and the 15,000 that we got we didn't have to pay back.
But we had to pay back half.
Did we?
Well, everything that we got,
We were supposed to, but we did. Oh no, we did. Yeah, we did.
The deal is that you get 15,000 as a loan, and that what's repaid is any money you make, you give 50% back to the film board. So they got 10 grand back of their 15,000. So they didn't make a profit.
But when we won prizes, they gave us a cheque for the prize.
Oh, the prizes
of 1,000, and we never gave that.
But the TV money.
The TV money, yeah, anything that goes through the distributor, the film board got part of that. And then for example, the bouquet which we made for nothing, for €80. That sold to TV stations, that sold to Etihad, so we made money on that. Yeah. But it really is with short film. With feature films is a different thing. But with short films, the short film. Now I think there is an opportunity to start making money because of the things like Netflix for mobile phones and this kind of thing. But really, it's like a business card. It's to get your foot in the door, but also to be able to go to festivals and meet people. A short film is a great way of traveling with your next project. A short film is about your next project. Really.
And if you win a few awards, you can do all kinds of work on the back of that.
Yeah, and sorry, just to say as well, we made maybe €20,000 with whatever turns you on. But if you look at the hotel costs, that the times that we were flown to festivals, put up in hotels and fed, every time we travelled to a festival, the festival probably gave us, €1,000 or €2,000 worth of travel and accommodation, and I probably went to 40 festivals. So I probably made 100,000 worth of travelling. Anything else?
I have a question about the third movie, the one with the flowers. Why did you make it in monochrome?
I made it in monochrome because I was too lazy to grade it. So I shot it in colour, and because it was so low budget and the lights were all over the place, I started trying to match the colour, and then I thought, why don't I just do it in monochrome? So that's the real reason. If I'm not among a friendly crowd, I have a more technical, beautiful reason about the flowers and the colour of the flowers. But that's the truth. Oh yeah, and another thing as well. If you don't, quite often as an artist, some of the meaning of your film comes from inside. It comes from your subconscious. You don't always understand your own film. If this happens, right? Go to a group like this of especially film students, and then you say, what do you think the meaning of this film is? And they come out with amazing answers, and then you just use them for the next crowd. Okay? Well, if nobody has anything else, thanks a million for coming, and again, sorry for, we had intended to be earlier, and thanks so much.
That was actually a lesson in the fact that everybody's always late.
Remember this thing, have a backup. But thanks so much for that, and good luck with your endeavours. Again, if you have any questions, nothing to do with this, but any questions about, for example, filming in Ireland or any of these other kind of things, do give me an email. I'm very happy to talk to you about anything like that. Okay.